There is a particular moment that a lot of people know privately. You are watching something, a film, an advert, a clip someone sent you, and without any warning, your eyes fill. Not because you planned to feel something, not because you were in the right mood for it, just because something landed and your body responded before your mind had a chance to decide whether it should. And then comes the second moment, which is often harder than the first. Someone notices. They look at you, a little puzzled, and ask if you are all right. And you try to explain that yes, you are fine, it was just a dog reuniting with its owner. It was just a kind sentence. It was just something small. You trail off, because you cannot quite explain why something so ordinary reached you so completely. If that is familiar, I want to offer you a different frame for it. Not to reassure you that everything is fine in a way that glosses over the question, but because I think the way you have been taught to understand your own sensitivity is probably wrong, and the cost of that misunderstanding is quietly significant. The version you may have been told goes something like this: that crying easily, that being moved by ordinary things, is a sign of poor emotional regulation, that it means you are overwhelmed, that you are not coping, that the people who do not cry at things, the ones who seem steady, contained, unruffled, have something sorted out that you do not. I have come to distrust that framing almost entirely. What I keep noticing, and what the evidence in this area tends to support, is that emotional sensitivity is not a failure of control. It is a form of perception. Your nervous system is not processing too much emotion. It is processing more emotional information than most people's systems register at all. The small shift in someone's voice, the implied meaning beneath a kind gesture, the weight of a moment that passes everyone else by. You catch those things. Your system was built to catch them. Research in this area tends to indicate that somewhere around 1 in 5 people experience emotional responses that are more immediate and more vivid than the general average. These are not people who are destabilized by feeling. They are people who notice more of what is emotionally present in a room, in a conversation, in a piece of music. They are not overreacting. They are simply receiving a broader signal. That is not nothing. That is, in fact, a form of attunement that most people cannot access at all. Here is the part that I think matters most, and the part I find people rarely hear said clearly enough. When you cry, particularly when you cry at something that seems small, it is almost never only about that thing. The brain does not work like that. What is actually happening is a kind of accumulation, current tension, unspoken feelings, things you have been managing quietly for longer than you perhaps realized, all arriving at a moment where something gave them permission to surface. The small trigger is not the cause, it is the opening. Some researchers have described this as emotional discharge, the way a specific moment can release a larger, slower building weight that has been sitting below the surface. And what the evidence appears to suggest is that people who allow themselves to cry regularly tend to carry lower baseline stress over time. Crying activates the body's settling response. It is not the system misfiring. It is the system doing exactly what it was designed to do. I want to sit with that for a moment because I think it changes the question. The question is not, why do I cry so easily? The more honest version, the one that actually opens something, is, what am I carrying that has nowhere else to go? And there is something I have been thinking about that I do not hear said often enough. When emotions are habitually suppressed, when the signal is repeatedly filtered, managed, pushed back down, it does not disappear. It accumulates. There is a significant body of evidence suggesting that long-term emotional suppression is associated with chronic physiological stress. The people who seem steady because they do not cry are not necessarily more stable. They may simply be more defended. You are not taught to defend yourself in that way. And I think that is worth reconsidering, because in a culture that prizes composure, the person who feels openly tends to be positioned as the one who needs to be fixed. but I keep coming back to the same observation. They are often the ones who process their experience cleanly, rather than storing it somewhere it cannot be examined. There is also something else here that I think deserves naming carefully. Sensitivity, genuine sensitivity, the kind that moves you at unpredictable moments, functions as a kind of filter. Not for information, but for people. When you are genuinely open to your emotional experience, you notice very quickly who can sit with it and who cannot. You discover early which people meet your feeling with patience, and which meet it with embarrassment or impatience. That is not a problem to be solved. That is information about where you are safe and where you are not. The version of you that has spent years apologizing for that sensitivity, for the eyes that fill it something beautiful, for the emotion that arrives faster than composure can manage, has been apologizing for a form of perception that most people have gradually, quietly closed off. You have not. Whatever that cost you in self-consciousness, consider what it preserved. The world moves constantly toward numbness, toward efficiency of feeling, toward managed responses, toward the practiced calm of being fine. And there is something deeply human about refusing that, not through resistance, but simply through remaining open to what is actually there. Beauty lands, kindness lands, loss lands, music lands. A dog running towards someone it recognizes lands. These things are supposed to land. The question is never whether you should feel them. The question is whether you have been given permission to. You have been told at various points that the answer is no, that the appropriate response is containment, that composure is the goal and feeling is the evidence of failure. I am not sure that is right. I am becoming increasingly sure it is the other way around, that what gets called emotional fragility is often emotional precision, and that what passes for steadiness is often just a practiced distance from one's own interior. Feeling precisely, feeling early, feeling openly, is not the absence of strength. It is a particular kind of it, one that is quiet, one that the people around you may not name correctly, one that you may have spent years trying to reduce in yourself because it made other people uncomfortable. But you were not uncomfortable with it. You were just taught to be. Whatever it is you have been carrying quietly, the sensitivity, the easy tears, the feeling that you receive things more fully than you perhaps should, it has not broken anything in you. It has kept something open that most people slowly, without noticing, let close.